Hey, what's happening out there, everyone in YouTube land? It's Saturday. You know what that means. Time for another jam-packed episode of ABW Detonate right here on YouTube. I am the old school AB, being joined once again by the Bard of the Boiler Room, the Deacon of Destrucity, the Pontiff of Pain himself, one and only, Kind Man. Kind Man, how the hell are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing fabulous. Off a Friday night draft in both the NFL and the WWE. So I am
right, and which featured Tony Khan. We'll get to him in a minute, but yeah. Oh boy! So how did you like the NFL draft? Just curious. I don't watch football, but I guess there are a lot of our listeners who probably do. So
yeah, no, the NFL draft is always interesting. It's the evolution of the NFL draft is fascinating to me because when I was a kid, it was nothing. And now it's been turned into the second coming of the Super Bowl. Like
it is a production, isn't it?
Hype. It is that big a television program.
It's a hype. It's a production.
Where the NFL draft outrates any other television program for the entire year other than NFL football games. So it's a hype train, and it does, as a big football fan, as a big sports fan, it does engulf me, and I do watch. And by the way, there's a inspirational part to it where you're seeing people that overcame, you're seeing people in real time realize their own dreams.
Mm-hmm.
And it's produced very well, so they do a good job with it.
Yeah, why not?
Not a lot of twists and turns this year. It was pretty much according to plan, other than one fascinating pick that kind of at least gave everyone a storyline to talk about on Friday and Saturday.
Well, good. What was that storyline? Just the headline.
It was a team picking a quarterback that was not expecting. No one else was expecting to pick a quarterback, and it threw off their current quarterback, and it threw off a bunch of teams that wanted that quarterback. So that was the drama of Thursday night.
How did Tony Khan fare? How did he and his dad do at the draft?
They weren't really a major player because they were kind of middle of the pack last year. So they weren't at the top of the draft. They weren't at the bottom. I don't even know who their first pick was. I don't even remember. Because I got a lot going on this time of year. Even with 3 screens in my man cave, I'm a big hockey fan. So I have the NHL playoffs. There's the basketball playoffs. There's WWE drafts, NFL drafts. Like 3 TVs isn't enough this time of year for me.
You need 3 eyeballs.
Yeah, exactly. No, I love my setup is next level. If anyone wants any advice on setting up a man cave, hit me up on Discord.
I think you need to add a couple more TVs.
Yeah, no, because then the DirecTV bill just gets
really
like Looney Tunes.
Yeah, okay.
Like it's
why is that? Is it
3?
Just because...
I got an 80-inch flanked by 2 42s. I have a touchscreen remote that allows me to shift everything. It's
right. It's pretty nice.
It's a good setup. I was actually featured in Man Cave magazine years ago.
Wow. Is it Crestron?
Yeah. What's that?
Is the remote Crestron?
No, it's an RCI.
Arcia. Other words, RCA?
It says RCI. And...
Oh, RCI. Okay.
Oh, no, RTI.
RTI. Okay.
RTI.
Okay. Well, I've never heard of that either, so.
Okay.
But
it's cool.
Yeah,
it's a touch screen where I just hit the button and it flips. So if I want to all of a sudden move the sound to the upper left, I just click one button and it mutes the main screen and puts the sound on the other one if something's happening in that spot.
Yeah. It reminds me of the remote controls, the touch screens that we had when I worked in the casino and I had to go help the waiters in the sports bar change the channel. Yep. I'm like, you got to be kidding me! You guys can't figure this out.
Oh no,
look, I don't blame them. It's tough to figure out.
When I went to sports bars, and you look at them and like, hey, can we change this screen to wrestling or
Yeah.
whatever? Just the absolute look of pure confusion from the bartender is epic. There were times where I just asked one screen to be changed just because I wanted to see how much their head was going to explode.
Yeah.
I'm like, you work here. How is it not
Well, that's the
second?
thing. They don't know. Like they had to
Yeah.
call, like at the time I worked in IT and they had to call me down from IT all the way up to the sports bar to change the channel. Come on, guys.
Yeah.
Come on, guys. And I would show them 100 times how to do it, but it would never sink in. I
Well,
guess.
they made this so I had a an AV team set this up
Okay.
that basically only do commercial jobs. So they do Buffalo Wild Wings, they do
Right.
sports bar setups.
Right. They do it pro
So when
wise.
they
Yeah.
left, they completely dummy proofed it for me. It was like,
Yeah.
okay, here, because it's all touch screen, so it's pretty apparent. Like when you pick up the remote, it lights up and it shows the 3 TV screens. It shows the one big
Oh,
one and the 2 small ones on the screen. So if I want to do something with upper left, I hit upper left. It's pretty, yeah, it's good.
that's not bad at all, man.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
allows me to continue to watch my sports, but still stay up to date on my wrestling so we can
That's it. So
provide a show here.
So we can give you guys more content, which we're going to get to just a little bit. In fact, let's just get to it right now. I was asking about Tony Khan because I was concerned after he took that slug to the gut and that TK driver on Dynamite that he might not make it. You know, oh my God. I don't mean to harp on the guy, but this was another stupid thing to do on television and even dumber to carry it out in public. You know, selling your injuries in front of the boys and the girls in the locker room is, you know, in my opinion, in somewhat poor taste because it's like, who the fuck do you think you're working? But it's another thing to go out to the draft with a fucking neck brace on. Maybe he just wants to be Andy Kaufman. I don't know. Did you see him take those bumps?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so the first bump he took,
it was the most interesting segment in my limited AEW career. It was the most interesting segment I've seen featuring the Young Bucks.
yeah,
Date.
yeah, I can get behind that. That was the most interesting they've been since, well, ever. But no, yeah. First of all, you can tell Tony Khan has never taken a punch in his life. Think about it. If I punch you in the gut, what's going to happen to you? You're going to double over, right? You're going to be like, oh, my gut. No, he fell flat on his back and flopped like a fish on the ground. He flopped like a dead fish. It's like, who takes a bump like that? And of course,
trust fund babies don't take a lot of punches.
Yeah. Well, that's why he said you can tell he's never been beaten up for his lunch money.
Yeah.
He probably had bodyguards in kindergarten, for God's sakes.
That's what I mean. When you don't face difficulty,
Yeah,
as a young person, you don't develop calluses. Let's put it that way.
yeah. Oh God, but no, that was that was interesting, and I know he's still having problems. As Tony Khan, poor Tony. The wrestling community at large is kind of turning on him, and I want to take this time and just say, look, as hard as I can be on the guy, I'm not hard on him because I want to be a dick. I'm hard on the guy because I love the product and I want it to succeed. I want it to be a viable second place, or even, you know, to surpass WWE in some ways. You know, I would be happy with that. Yeah. But the problem is he's trying too hard to be something he's not. He's trying too hard he's throwing shit against the wall because he doesn't know anything isn't sticking right now. You know, so he's trying to be WWE. He's trying to do all these WWE style angles, and he's signing all these talent from Japan and that nobody knows. And, you know, well, I shouldn't say nobody knows, but, you know, the audience he's trying to capture,
the world.
Right. The audience he's trying to get doesn't know who these people are, and he's presenting them as a huge deal right out of the box. And it doesn't work that way. You know, there's a lot to be said about just using your fucking brain. I don't know.
Yeah, the problem with it, and I'll take this back to the NFL and the NFL draft.
Please.
and all of that is the problem is these billionaires that don't have anyone to tell them no, don't have
Yeah.
anyone to lean on for advice, for because they view themselves as, I got here and here's the way I'm going to do it. You see it in the NFL with these billionaires that buy these teams, and then all of a sudden now they're getting involved in football decisions, and they're not football people. Like the true leader, and this is in business, wrestling, sports,
Exactly.
life.
Yep.
The true leader hires people and empowers them.
Yeah.
The billionaire hires yes men. And if you're Tony Khan, he's thinking, I have to figure this out, instead of leading on people to guide him to figure it out.
Yeah.
That's your business lesson.
There you go, folks.
EW.
That's right. He may live in a dingy, dirty basement dwelling boiler room, but he knows his shit, folks.
Look at the fog behind me, but there's no fog up here.
That's right. That's right. And I just have one more question for you, by the way. Did anybody at the NFL draft make fun of Tony Khan for wearing his neck brace that you saw?
Not that I saw, but I can tell you that the volume wasn't on the NFL draft a lot.
Okay.
In my setup, because I was watching hockey. My team was busy losing their third straight game to go down 3-0 on Thursday night. So I had the sound on the hockey, and I would switch the sound to the NFL draft when the picks were being made.
Right. Okay. That's so weird to me that people are hockey fans. I guess it's just not a sport that's popular here. Like, think about it. Nebraska doesn't have a lot of fucking hockey.
Hockey's my first love.
Right. Okay. There you go.
Hockey's my first love, and I'm from the Northeast, so it's certainly much more prevalent. It's a very niche sport. Out of all these sports, it has the number one percentage of butts in seats in arena. Okay, so almost the entire league sells out every single game.
Right.
Because hockey is all diehard fans. Hockey has no ancillary fans.
Wow. So it's like wrestling in a way.
But ancillary people will tune in wrestling.
Oh yeah.
Ancillary people won't sit there and watch hockey.
No, you're right. You're right. I won't watch a hockey match. Yeah.
By the way, one thing I will tell people that aren't into hockey, if you have minor league hockey or you have something in your area, go live once. Okay? Live hockey, best live sport, bar none. Okay? Because you actually see the speed of it. When you see the speed of hockey players, like how fast you move on the ice, it's intoxicating. Wow. I can watch it on TV because I've played hockey from age 5 to currently age 50. So I've been playing hockey for 45 years. So I appreciate it. I love it, but it is a die-hard fan sport.
Wow.
People love hockey. And by the way, it's not like you can grab a basketball at a schoolyard and shoot hoops, or other sports where you can just play. Learning to skate is kind of a deal.
Yeah.
I had my ankles touching the ice for freaking 2 years until I figured out how to skate and move around. But it's a diehard sport, and I take no offense when people don't like hockey. I'm not like one of those people like, oh no, you gotta love it.
Yeah.
But what I do tell people is go live if you can go live. College, minor league, doesn't have to be NHL. Go live, and you will be blown away by the speed of it.
Right. Do you know who my favorite hockey player is?
No.
Happy Gilmore. Happy Gilmore.
See, by the way, for the people that haven't heard, I will break the news here because I heard it directly from a sportscaster that will be in the movie. Happy Gilmore 2 is coming soon.
Okay, well, I didn't even know that. News is being broken here, folks.
I heard it from Adam Sandler himself on the Dan Patrick Show.
Wow, the Sandman himself said it, huh?
Absolutely.
Damn. All right. Well, there you have it, folks.
Happy Gilmore 2 is coming.
News has been broken on ABW. It's never happened before in the history of the show, but
it was broken. It was broken on the Dan Patrick Show a week ago.
Okay.
But it's broken here to our community.
Okay,
today.
there you. That's right. That's right. Speaking of breaking, that's not a segue. Let's talk about this draft that's going on. This whole weekend, really. It's draft weekend for WWE, and they started out on SmackDown last night. I did not finish watching all of SmackDown, but I do know all the draft results. We had some inclement weather here last night, so I didn't really get to watch a lot of it. We had, by the way, just real quick, we had 57 fucking tornadoes touch down in this area last night. Just insane. Brutal. One touchdown at the airport, dude. They smacked around a bunch of planes. Fucking brutal.
I think this world's going to hell in a handbasket. I'm located in Connecticut, and we had a earthquake the other day.
Yeah, it's fucked up.
That's mind blowing. Like that's like,
yeah,
earthquake in like on the East Coast. Like that doesn't even make any sense.
Yeah, that's terrible. I mean, it's. I'm smiling, but it's just fucking crazy to think that, what the fuck? It's just crazy.
This world's not gonna be around.
Going around. So. Yeah, I know. The planet's gonna shake us off like a case of fleas, man.
Tony Khan going from a gut punch to his back. You got earthquakes in Connecticut.
I know, right?
7 tornadoes in the Midwest.
I know. Dogs and cats living together. Mass hysteria.
My wife's like trying to figure out like where we want to retire, where we want to live, because she was born in Honduras. She wants to go to warm weather. And every time we bring up another place, there's another natural disaster that happens there.
Yeah.
It's like, well, we can't go to Miami because of hurricanes. We can't go to here because of this. Like, I don't think there's any other than unless you have the money to like live in like San Diego.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anywhere safe.
No. When I lived in San Diego for 10 years and loved it, by the way.
San Diego's 70 and breezy every day.
Every day. Oh, my word. It was so wonderful. Every day was gorgeous. Anyways, we're getting off track. We're supposed to be talking wrestling, damn it.
Yeah.
The draft.
Awful draft picks.
Yeah.
I don't know. They did a very poor job of even telling you who is eligible, because they made a comment that this pool of wrestlers are available on Monday.
Right.
And this pool of wrestlers are available on Friday. So you're sitting there, you're like, okay, there has to be a better option than Sheamus at this point, because the entire roster is still out there.
Right.
And love Sheamus. I'm Irish, but
it's a shame to play with lobster head. Yeah.
Yeah, like
that theme song is awesome.
I mean, SmackDown, listen, love Carmelo Hayes. He's an up-and-comer.
Yeah.
Good personality, all that stuff. But to be the second pick of SmackDown is kind of like,
yeah, that's weird.
I don't think the Raw draft room was queued up to grab Carmelo Hayes at that point. So you gotta think like, who could I get here for the best value?
The thing I didn't understand about the draft as it was happening, and maybe this is my fault for not really going back and looking at the rules. I knew that champions were pretty much set in stone, but I didn't know that you could draft yourself to the same, or not yourself, but how do I explain it?
You can be drafted someone from using a draft pick on someone already on your brand.
Right. I didn't think that was right.
Yeah, because they're basic. You got to look at it this way. They're all free agents at this point. And by the way, old drafts, they didn't
no, they didn't do that.
They didn't lock in the champions.
No, they didn't lock in champions either. Yeah, if it was fact, it was for example, common.
If it was a big storyline that Raw grabbed the United States title.
Yeah.
From SmackDown.
Yeah.
So a lot of the first picks were all of the champions. I remember one year where both tag team champions got drafted to the same show, and that was a big to-do.
Yeah.
So they did lock in all the champions, but I don't think they did a really good job of understanding who is eligible to be drafted. Because I'm just sitting there going, all right.
I guess some people weren't eligible to be drafted.
Well, because I heard them say, like, we know the whole NXT roster was eligible. because they made a big deal out of the 2 that got picked from there.
Right.
But I saw one clip towards the end of the show that said, it brought up somebody, I don't remember who it was, but it says they will be eligible to be drafted on Monday Night Raw or on Monday's show.
Okay.
So obviously, if Sheamus is one of the top 16 wrestlers in all of WWE right now, like I don't think that's the case. 16 wrestlers
Or Sheamus.
I mean, Otis was drafted. I mean, he's not one of the 16, people,
who wasn't drafted? Ivar.
Well, but he's too busy. He's the hardest working man in wrestling.
And by the way,
that guy's on every show.
He is.
Everything, like, that guy gets more play. I can't wait for that second Viking to get back.
Well, he's not going to be back for a little while yet.
Okay. Well, I don't need Ivar in every storyline. I really don't. Ivar's in a triple threat match for the United States champion every other week. Like, please.
And I guess now Valhalla is expecting. So, she's going to be gone from TV too. So that's a thing. Because I guess her and Eric is the other guy. They're married, I guess.
Yes.
And,
when I say the other Viking is Valhalla's husband.
Right. You refuse to call him Eric.
He hasn't been around in so long, I forgot his name.
There you go. Who else is who got drafted was a big deal. I don't want to spend a lot of time dwelling on it, but because I want to get to the top 5.
Bianca was the first pick, which I get.
Yeah.
Main event 8:50 p.m. Jey Uso was the first pick for her. Hasn't been in the main event in quite some time, but
he's main event, all right.
Carmelo Hayes was the second pick for SmackDown. Seth Rollins, which makes sense, was the second pick.
Yeah.
For Raw. Orton and you must have loved the fourth pick for SmackDown. Nia Jax.
My God! Did you hear the crowd boo the shit out of her? That was fucking hilarious. I wonder if they would have announced her drafted on Raw to SmackDown on Raw, if the crowd would have fucking cheered or popped because they're like, yes, she's gone. But SmackDown booed because they're like, fuck.
The second pick of Raw and the third pick of SmackDown was Rollins Orton.
Yeah.
And I thought Orton's getting pretty close to calling it quits.
Yeah.
And Rollins is perpetually hurt. So, like, I thought those were, as I questioned the Carmelo Hayes pick, I guess I can't be talk out both sides of my mouth and, question, hey, you reached too early for a new person but then you reached too early for an old person. I guess I got to be fair. I thought, like, Braun Breaker, is the fourth pick on Raw or the third pick on Raw. Liv Morgan, LA Knight, like Nia Jax was taken before LA Knight. Like, that's
what world does that happen in?
Yeah,
ours apparently.
They were trying to make it. Talk about trying to make a storyline out of nothing. They tried to make a storyline out of the bloodline not being selected in the first 2 rounds.
Right.
And I was like, okay, that is the most uninteresting storyline I've heard in a long time, that they were trying to make that into a thing.
Well, I think what they're actually trying to do, since they had Roman take himself out of the draft pool, and I think you're going to have Jimmy and Jay on the same brand. I think you're going to get Jimmy and Jay back together eventually at some point, and they're going to get back together with Roman, but that's not going to sit well with what's his name, that new kid, Solo Sikoa, and his Tamatonga, and I would almost imagine Jacob Fatu, who's been signed, hasn't come in yet, but he's going to wind up being a third member of this new bloodline.
I had a Tamatonga at a Mexican restaurant the other day. It was awesome.
They are delicious, but I'm talking about Tamatonga, the wrestler.
Oh, okay.
My God. That's what I think they're going to do with that. And I think that's why they left him in as the second, third round pick or whatever, because, without Roman and the Usos, he's going to put a chip on Solo's shoulder and Thomas' shoulder. And they're just going to run roughshod over the roster until Jimmy and Jay come back and put a stop to it. And then they have to call Roman back. But
yep.
and maybe I could be way the fuck off, but that's just where I
mean,
it.
you're obviously looking at it. They're showing Paul Heyman being very uncomfortable in this whole with Solo calling shots.
Yeah.
They're definitely setting up that Solo is going to anoint himself head of the table.
Oh, he will. He's going to be the tribal chief.
And Paul Heyman is going to be very nervous with that, and
yeah,
Paul Heyman,
which I'm fine with. Let them all wrestle each other. Get it out of your system.
Absolutely.
But the only other draft pick, I think you covered them all.
Well, there was
Ricochet
there was AJ
Raw.
Styles went to SmackDown. Andrade was SmackDown's last pick. I touched on Ricochet, Sheamus, Chad Gable, Otis, Maxine, Kiana James. I think was the surprise NXT pick to Raw.
Who the hell was that?
Kiana James is good. She's in NXT. She got drafted to Raw. The two people in NXT that got drafted were Kiana James and Carmelo Hayes.
Oh yeah, I know who Carmelo Hayes is.
Yeah, Kiana James is a good. She's a bad.
Okay,
bad
she's a heel. Okay.
Yeah, she's a heel. She's very athletic, very good on the mic.
Okay.
She's very direct. She's not like a Tiffany Stratton or anything like that, where she's entertaining on the mic. Like,
right.
She doesn't have a strong personality. She's more like a tough girl.
It's not Tiffy time.
Oh, it's always Tiffy time. By the way, the interaction between Tiffany Stratton and Bubba Ray is as they were finishing, Bubba Ray and Devon were making the picks.
Yeah. Tiffany
Stratton came out for her match and she grabbed Bubba Ray's wrist and held up his watch, and she looked at it and she goes, "It's Tiffy time."
That's pretty good.
And his reaction was awesome. And I know what that interaction came from is Bubba Ray on a recent on Sirius XM's wrestling show.
Sure.
Called her the total package and has just been basically saying she is the next big thing. So I think that was her way of going up to him and saying, "Appreciate you, man.
Right.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thanks for the plug."
Yeah.
And she smiled at him, and she's not normally one of the ones that is going to be interacting with the, people around her in a positive way.
Oh yeah.
And she smiled at him. She grabbed his wrist, looked at his watch, and so that was, I think, a tribute to Bubba Ray's been very outspoken about how good she is. And by the way, she is good.
Yeah, she's not too bad. She's not too bad.
I mean, I'm not into blondes from a looks perspective, but she is, as far as a wrestling perspective, as far as the bit, as far as the athleticism, as far as the things she can do in the ring, she had me sold at Elimination Chamber.
Well, there you go, folks. So that'll wrap up our draft conversation for the foreseeable future. We might have another discussion on the latter half of it as it goes. And I was actually thinking, Kind Man actually had an idea last night. I was actually thinking maybe 6 months from now, you and I do our own draft show, ABW draft, and then we can fantasy draft our own rosters 6 months after. We can see how this roster change worked, and then kind of do a little fantasy booking, a little fantasy roll, a little fantasy.
We should have redrafted who they took last night, because I guarantee it would be Nia Jax wouldn't be fourth.
Yeah, she wouldn't be anywhere. She'd be out on her ass. By the way, before we get to Kind Man's top 5, I want to point out that I am wearing the John Cena colors today. Hustle, loyalty, and respect. That's right, folks. Lord. It's my new credo, HLR.
By the way, there's one member of this show, folks, you never have to worry about having John Cena gear.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of gear, this super cool ABW mug.
Oh.
I know. I've been drinking out of it all episode.
Wow. I
don't
didn't
know.
even notice that.
I know. People probably didn't notice
We came up with another merch idea last night.
We did.
For those of you that listen to our other podcast, my other nickname, which is Biff. But I'm in the manufacturing business right now of creating Biffy time t-shirts because
He's got to
it's
get that.
Biffy time.
He's got to get that passed through the right channels, and then we can make it happen. Also today, before we go off the air, I have this. Those of you who can see this, this is a bottle of fucking Prime. I've never tasted Prime before, and I got cherry freeze. I don't know if that's a good flavor or not, but I wanted to try it because I've never tried it, and I figured, you know what? I'll give Logan Paul I'll throw him a bone.
All right.
But yeah. Anyways, I can't wait to hear what your top 5 is. I know we're running a little long, but guess what? I don't give a fuck because we're talking wrestling. I want to hear it. What's your top 5, pal? The Kind Man. Top 5.
Oh, by the way, can I say before my top 5?
Oh, yeah.
I called the Carlito heel turn.
Oh, yeah.
It just took longer.
It takes a while.
Develop.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just took longer to develop. I wanted to microwave it, and it didn't work out that way. It was a slow smoked brisket, but it did come out something that I called pre-WrestleMania. So my list, it started off as being generic to the top 5 rivalries of all time.
Okay.
However, as I started to build the list out, I decided to condense it to the top 5 attitude area rivalries of all time.
Okay, perfect.
Because I noticed that most of my things were in the attitude era. Pretty much my top 5 of my original top 8 were all attitude era. So I decided to make it very specific to that. And I will tell you this, that what I learned from this, and also from our, me and for all those you that don't know, me and AB have a crack staff of researchers and fact checkers and all of this stuff. But when I started to, get all of that research, I started to realize how good that 5-year attitude era was at rivalries.
Yeah, it yielded a lot.
There were a lot of choices just in 1997 to 2002. The rivalries that were there, and the beauty of this list also is it can be mix and match.
Yeah.
I did not put anyone on twice. Okay, but a lot of these people could be on twice, and a lot of them could justifiably be on with somebody in one of the other rivalries that I put on this list.
I wonder, I'm just thinking off the top of my head, and maybe I'll wait to hear your list, but I wonder if you're going to have a rivalry on there that, in my humble opinion, probably should be on there, even though technically it may not be part of the, quote, attitude era. It certainly sparked it. I would be curious to see if you've got that on your list, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
That is a fabulous segue, and we didn't even talk about that, so good job by you.
Oh.
Do you know when the first sighting of the WW, of the Attitude Era logo was? Do you know what day that was when that happened?
Monday.
Oh, not day of the week.
Oh, okay.
Okay, the Attitude Era logo was first shown in 1997.
Okay.
At Survivor Series.
Okay. That would make a lot of sense.
So I don't know if
that's not where I'm coming from.
Okay.
But you're totally right. You're totally in the right zone.
So that's where it started.
So that's where you're picking it up, is when they changed the logo.
Officially. When they made the logo.
Wow. Okay.
So Survivor Series 1997 to, I believe, everything our crack research staff has told me was May 2002 was what everyone has deemed the Attitude Era.
End of it, yeah.
And the rivalries inside of that 4.5-5 year span is fascinating, because when I started making the list, it was, oh no, well, he could be on the list with him, even though, hey, my number 3 could be on the list with my number 5. And a lot of them also ended up as tag team partners.
Right.
During the same period.
Sure.
Or in the top 5.
I can think of a couple examples off the top of my head, but yeah.
So my number 5, who fought 14 times in major events during that time. So pay-per-view, or maybe it was just a championship match on Raw or something along those lines. So when I give those numbers is how many times they fought during this era, it's major events. It's either pay-per-view or championship matches on a Raw or a SmackDown. The Undertaker and Kane.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so they had a Buried Alive match for the title. They had an Inferno match. They had multiple casket matches, some that were a lot better than others. Some people say the worst casket match of all time was Undertaker versus Kane in one of these.
Right.
Casket matches are tough.
Yeah, they are.
I think I witnessed the worst one ever, with Undertaker and Yokozuna at the Royal Rumble in Providence. But yeah, that's where I'm going first. Obviously, they became a tag team as well, the Brothers of Mass Destruction, and were dominant there as well. But that is my number 5.
Perfect.
And remember,
I love it.
The Undertaker could be paired with other people coming up on this list. Kane could be paired with other people coming up on this list. That's why I say this is a mix and match top 5.
Yeah.
But I tried to pick the ones that made the most sense to me, that were the most impactful during this timeline. And by the way, a lot of them tie into other rivalries here. This next one does that. Number 4, I have Mankind and The Rock.
Okay.
You don't think of that first.
No.
You know what I mean?
No, but it is. You're right. It is. That should be up there.
By the way, do you know how many championship matches during that 5-year set? So for the WWE Championship, okay, how many times those two fought in that 4.5 year span? Just guess. For the biggest title.
I'm gonna count 9.
Okay, it was. See, I was expecting to go low. It was 7.
Okay, it was 7. Okay,
that's a lot.
It is a lot.
That's a lot of WWE title matches for 2 people.
Yeah, well, I knew they had at least 5.
Stone Cold and The Rock.
Yeah.
Everyone always thinks of that.
Yeah.
These guys fought for titles more than anybody in this 5-year.
Yeah. Yeah, they had 3, 4, 5 that I can count off the top of my head, but I miscounted. But yeah.
And Mankind played a huge role in the Rock Stone Cold.
Oh, he did. Oh, he did.
Well, where he was the special guest referee at one of their matches. Like Mankind and Rock was big before Rock and Stone Cold. So that's why I gave this one. I thought Mankind and Rock was a rivalry that set the stage for other rivalries.
Yeah.
In this. So I gave them my number 4. My number 3 began with an icon at WrestleMania, and an icon outside of wrestling at WrestleMania, and it was Mike Tyson. And when Mike Tyson was an enforcer in a Stone Cold match, he double-crossed Vince McMahon and gave Austin the title. So my number 3 is Vince McMahon versus Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Wow, that's number 3, huh?
Yeah,
I would have pegged that for number 1, but yeah.
You know how many times they actually fought in ring too? And I was surprised by this number.
3, 4, 5,
8.
8. Holy cow! Okay.
8 times the 2 of them squared off in the ring, either in a tag team or a one-on-one match.
Wow.
So that was a significant number, I thought, that justified Vince being certainly in this. You have Zambonis, beer trucks.
Zambonis.
You got everything.
Yeah.
You got more stunners and more pounding beers in this.
I know. Rivalry. There's more beer cans and popsicle sticks everywhere. It was crazy.
Oh, it was. So Vince and Austin. Number 2, you would know this one definitely if you were one of the 2 people in the world that heard the long lost X7 ABW episode. And this is a triple threat match for the number 2 spot between the Dudley Boys, Edge and Christian, and the Hardy Boys. Because during the Attitude Era, these 3 redefined tag team wrestling.
Yeah.
As you said in that long lost episode that only me and you heard.
Yeah.
They changed the game.
Yeah.
Changed ladder matches, table matches, chairs, like just this different type of rivalry, different type of main event in tag team wrestling. And their rivalry, and they were all so different. You know, the Hardys were high flyers.
Mm-hmm.
Edge and Christian could be high flyers, but they were more technical.
Yeah.
The Dudley boys were just bullies and just threw you through tables.
Brawlers,
and so they were all contrasting styles, but they all just tag your it on the tag team titles, just traded them back and forth and went through the era, and they were wildly entertaining, as you said in that episode, changed the game.
Yeah, they sure did. And I'm glad somebody finally gets to hear me through your voice say that. But yeah, nonetheless.
So that is my number 2. And my number 1, oddly enough, we just talked about ladder matches. My number 1 was the first ever ladder match in WWE.
Oh, okay.
Do you know who brought the ladder match to WWE? Who went to Vince and said, this is what we need to do?
Now, you're going to stretch my brain a little bit, because I could give you 1 or 2 different answers. Because I know that they had, the first time I ever heard of anybody using a ladder in the ring was up in Calgary, Alberta, up in Stu Hart's promotion up there. They had a ladder match where I think Bret Hart wrestled Bad News Brown. I think that was it.
I believe that is correct. We can. Hey, fact checkers, check us out on that one. Yeah, I'll get back to our staff.
We'll get back
here.
to it. I know the noggin ain't what it used to be.
I believe that is correct, and that leads to one of the first matches between these two people was a ladder match, and it was the first ladder match in WWE history.
Yeah, I think it was Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart, wasn't it?
Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels, and Bret Hart bringing that idea to Vince.
Yeah,
sparking the number 1 rivalry. Who I have my fact check team found different numbers, but I saw one number in one place that said in major events in the Attitude Era, these two faced off 17 times.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
And that is, Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart. And the Attitude Era was kicked off by the Montreal Screwjob.
It really was. And you're right. It was defined by that. I would argue, and this is just my take on it, but I would have put Stone Cold versus McMahon at number 1 and put Shawn Michaels versus Bret Hart at number 2, but that's just me personally. I couldn't disagree with either one. I mean, they're frankly close-ish to a tie, if you want to be honest about it.
And also the McMahon-Austin, one of the things that ruined McMahon-Austin for me was when they actually were tag team partners one time and actually had that, once again, long lost episode.
Yeah.
X7, McMahon and Austin get together. And by the way, Michaels and Hart also tagged together at one point.
They did. Yeah.
So if you look at this, every single one of these rivalries tagged together at some point, because the 3 tag teams obviously tagged with themselves. So I thought this was I agree with you that Vince and Austin could be right there. The fact that Vince isn't really a wrestler was, I think, where it really
where you made the divide.
Where I dropped them a couple slots, but I thought Michael's Hart was a clear. The Attitude logo was first showed directly before their match in the build up to the Screwjob.
Yeah.
So they kicked off the Attitude Era and they went straight through it. And the other thing from watching your show, The Dark Side of Wrestling, and watching that episode on the Montreal Screwjob, they legitimately didn't like each other.
Right? No, they hated each other. Yeah,
they like spitting in faces and
handfuls of fucking hair.
Oh yeah, Jesus. All kinds of hate.
Yeah.
So I thought if there was a tiebreaker, which I didn't think there was a tiebreaker because these two wrestled more than any of the other 4 people on this list against each other. The tiebreaker was actually real life hate.
Yeah. I can see
real life disdain for each other as a rivalry.
Yeah, and I can see that.
Yeah.
Gosh, what was so you didn't mention the rivalry that I had in the back of my head, and I know that you defined the beginning of the Attitude Era with sort of a logo stamp, if you will.
Yep.
But I think, and this is just my humble, stupid opinion, the Attitude Era started, the seeds for the Attitude Era were planted during the Stone Cold Bret Hart rivalry.
Yeah.
At WrestleMania 13, that double turn where Hart turned into a bad guy and Stone Cold became the good guy. And, you know, of course McMahon couldn't have been against Stone Cold Steve Austin if he hadn't done that, you know, if he hadn't been a rebellious son of a bitch. There are so many things that hinged on that rivalry that planted the seeds for everything that came after. So I would almost tip my hat to that as being not necessarily a rivalry for the Attitude Era, but certainly one that kicked it off.
Yeah, no, and by the way, it goes back to my initial point.
Yeah.
All of these people in this list, you could mix and match.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, you could do Rock Austin. You could do Austin Hart. You could do Michaels Undertaker.
Oh yeah.
I mean, like you could all of you could do Kane Mankind.
You could.
Like you could have all of these guys flip throughout. You could have, by the way, Vince, Bret Hart.
Yeah.
Like you could do all of these.
You're leaving one off. It's really important, by the way.
All of the people in it are the right names. And that's what I think was fun about this list is you could certainly have different answers with the same names.
Yeah. I think you're leaving off Val Venus versus the Good Father, but that's just my humble opinion.
Back then, it was the Godfather.
Oh, the Godfather. That's right. The Godfather.
Yeah, the Good Father was the one that sucked.
Well, the Good Father.
The Godfather came down with the whole train.
Yeah.
The Good Father. Oh God, what was that censored thing?
Yeah, the right to censor, or their theme music was just a bunch of.
This is another callback to our X7 Lost episode.
Right.
Val Venus became fully clothed.
Right.
And the Godfather became the Good Father. And who's the girl?
Ivory. Well, she was always Ivory.
But Ivory buttoned.
Yeah, she had this like
shirt all the way up to the top.
This proper nun outfit or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, which versus wearing a leotard. And who's that idiot leader of that?
Oh, Stevie Richards.
Stevie Richards. Yeah, and they were all like against everyone.
Yeah, Stevie Richards is actually pretty good.
Censor.
Right, to censor. Yeah, you know what Vince was thinking that day.
Call back to our X7.
I know.
Whatever.
You also maybe think about Ivory's match with China on that card, which just puts a sour taste in my mouth. So thanks, buddy. Speaking of sour taste in my mouth, let's try this Prime.
Oh, boy.
All right, folks. Let's see if we can get the... There we go. The seal has been broken. All right. Let's smell it first. Doesn't smell too bad.
Taste test.
Yeah. I'm a little afraid to do this. I'm scared of what might be. I don't know what it's
like. It's gotta be like a Gatorade, dude.
It smells like more like peach than cherry, but that's just me. I don't know. Maybe it's all right. Here we go. Bottoms up. This is Prime Cherry Freeze. Oh
no.
Oh God. Oh, that's going right down the toilet. I'm sorry, buddy. I can't drink this shit, man.
By the way,
what's in this fucking thing?
Just so we don't start losing advertisers. Can I change the subject real fast?
Yeah, go for it.
Did you hear Vince McMahon sold the last of his TKO shares?
I did hear that, and to a nicer guy, it couldn't happen. I'm glad he's gone. No, some people were speculating that maybe he was going to start his own wrestling group, He's cashing all of his shit out, and he's going to start his own.
Retired.
And I'm like, no, he's not going to start his own wrestling. If he does, that would be really, really a bad idea. The worst fucking idea he could have had. I mean, and then he's competing at a low level against AEW and WWE.
No, he'll hire Tony Khan as his Eric Bischoff.
Yeah. Or maybe he'll just use his money and buy AEW and run that shit into the ground.
Or he'll just use his money and fucking retire.
Like, that's what he should do.
At some point,
go away.
You worked your whole life. Could you just enjoy it?
Yeah. Well, he needs to just go away. I'm tired of hearing about Vince McMahon. It's bad enough that, we're going to have to look at his body of work, so to speak, over the last 40 years for the rest of our lives. I don't have to be reminded of the fucking... Anyways, I don't like Vince McMahon much. I never have. And maybe one of these episodes, we'll dive into some of this stuff. I mean, there's a certain way I feel about a lot of professional wrestling, a lot of modern wrestling, and Vince himself. And I know that Kind Man is taking a slow boat on watching some of those Dark Side of the Ring episodes. Otherwise, I would love to.
They bum me out, dude.
Well, not all bummers. Well, I guess they're all kind of bummers.
They bum me out. That Macho Man one.
It is sad.
Me the fuck out.
It is sad. Yeah. So you've seen that one, and you've seen Montreal. Have you you've not seen any of the rest of them?
That's it.
Okay.
Those are the first two.
Okay. Well, then I'll tell you what. Don't watch all of them because I don't want you to get depressed. But I do want you to watch the Plane Ride from Hell episode.
Okay.
I don't know where it's at in the seasons. I think it's up on season 4. Look at it this way. You get to spend an hour with Jim Ross, and he gets to tell you about what happened on the Plane Ride from Hell.
That's fine. Yeah. But that Macho Man one just really bummed me out.
Yeah, it's a real gut wrencher,
The only thing I gained from watching that episode was I didn't know Leaping Lenny Poffo was his brother.
Oh, you didn't know?
I did not.
Oh yeah, Leaping Lenny
Poffo,
the genius. I am the genius. I'm the world's smartest man.
Yeah, he was.
I still remember that part where him and Mr. Perfect smashed Hogan's title on the Saturday night's main event. Do you remember that? That was awesome. You come back. All right. Anyways, now that we've discovered the new flavor of death, and we're all out of top 5 topics to talk about, I think it's time we wrap this up. We want to thank all of you for taking the time to be with us today. Don't waste another second. If you like what you see here, click the subscribe button, swish that bell, click the thumbs up, everything you need to do to stay YouTubey. All right. Don't flop like a dead fish. Help us out. This is the most terrible exit I've ever done. Come hang out with us on our Discord server. The link's all down in the description below. We talk wrestling all the time. Come and join us. You're going to have a great time. And I think that's it. Until next time, this is AB saying so long, everybody.
It's Biffy time. Have a nice day.